Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're putting a laser focus on one of the most critical yet often kind of ignored elements of a lasting partnership, intellectual intimacy.
It's a fascinating topic.
Yeah, if you spent any time thinking about relationship health, you've probably focused on, emotional closeness or physical attraction. Those are the big ones.
Absolutely. They get most of the attention.
But what happens when the conversation runs dry? Or, when you stop being mentally curious about the person you share your life with? That's what we're digging into.
hmm
We've pulled together sources spanning relationship psychology, therapy case studies, sociological research. Our mission really is to move past the abstract stuff and distill the actionable steps you can take to build this deep mental bond.
And also understand why it can be so tricky.
Exactly. Why it's so difficult to maintain over the long haul.
It's a rewarding area because this intellectual connection, it truly forms, well, the bedrock of long-term mutual evolution, I think. When we define it, we're looking past just like shared trivia or matching IQ scores.
Hmm.
That's not quite it.
Right.
Intellectual intimacy is that profound closeness that develops because you are sharing your innermost thoughts, your dreams, your fears, and crucially, because you actually enjoy the mental challenge of growing and learning from your partner.
I think that concept, learning from your partner, that's where we move beyond simple companionship, right?
Exactly.
Companionship means, you like doing things together. Intellectual intimacy means you stimulate each other. I love how the sources make room for thinking
A
independently,
little freedom. Yeah.
but still having that strong desire to bring your ideas back to your partner for a stimulating shared discussion.
That's right. It's sort of the ultimate safe space for your brain, in a way.
And the sources give us really tangible examples of what this looks like day to day. So think about your relationship right now, listening to this. Are you two regularly discussing and planning future goals together?
That's a big one.
Do you actively seek your partner's feedback before making big decisions, or even smaller ones?
hmm Trusting their perspective.
Do you genuinely enjoy a healthy debate about abstract ideas, philosophy, maybe politics, religion, without it just, turning into a fight?
Without personal attacks, yeah.
Mm.
Finding that common ground, even in disagreement.
But the clearest indicator we found really is that feeling that you can truly talk to your partner about anything
Mhm.
and that they'll meet your curiosity with their own.
Yeah, that complete conversational safety. It places intellectual intimacy squarely within that multidimensional framework of closeness that researchers use.
Right, they look at everything.
They look at emotional, social, sexual, recreational, spiritual, psychological,
Yeah.
relational intimacy. All of it.
It's a whole constellation.
It is. And our sources are emphatic.
Yeah.
This intellectual connection is every bit as crucial as the physical or emotional types. But maybe because it requires constant mental effort and vulnerability,
Effort. Yeah.
it's the one couples are most likely to let atrophy over time.
Which brings us to a complex concept that I think is the biggest mental hurdle here. We found this mainly in family functioning research, and it's called the paradox of closeness and self-differentiation.
Yes, the paradox is fascinating. Self-differentiation is basically maintaining your unique, separate identity, your individuation, even within a deep partnership.
Your Eunice.
Your Eunice, exactly. The paradox is this. True, deep intimacy and strong individuation are uh, mutually dependent. You actually can't achieve deep closeness without simultaneously developing a strong, separate self. They feed each other.
Okay, wait, let's unpack that a bit, because intuitively that feels like a zero-sum game, doesn't it?
It really does.
The dilemma at the heart of any deep bond marriage family is achieving both profound closeness and separateness within the same system. How do you do both?
Precisely. And if we accept the common and frankly incorrect idea that it's either, if I get closer to my partner, I have to lose my hobbies or my friends or my own opinions,
Right, I have to give something up.
then we reject the very possibility of a relationship that supports both deep love and individual growth. The sources argue you have to hold both realities at the same time.
So how do we escape that trap? Because if I feel I have to choose between keeping my identity and having this deep bond, I mean, that sounds like a recipe for resentment or just stagnation.
You escape it by recognizing that intimacy and individuation aren't just things you get once and then you have them. They are outcomes of successful process in the relationship.
Process, okay.
This process requires continuous, sometimes, painful negotiation, honesty, change. It has to be facilitated by mutual trust and radical openness. It's the constant adjustment that matters, not some fixed state.
And that ongoing process, that sometimes painful growth,
Yeah,
that's where vulnerability comes in, right?
absolutely.
The sources define vulnerability really well, I thought, not just, crying on your partner's shoulder.
So that could be part of it.
Sure, but as a sensitivity you carry, maybe from your history or just your current situation, and sharing that sensitivity, expressing your deepest fears or hidden needs, when the potential consequences, like rejection or a huge emotional reaction, are uncertain or really undesirable, that is the hallmark of functional intimacy.
And if couples avoid this process, if they prioritize stability or perceive stability over growth and intimacy, the consequences can be severe.
Okay.
If a couple insists on what's called high fusion and low differentiation, basically, too much togetherness, not enough separateness, you end up with an enmeshed system.
An enmeshed system sounds exactly like what it is, just tangled up.
It is. In these systems, boundaries become so blurry that the couple acts almost like one unit, and they overreact really profoundly to any stress or external pressure.
Okay, I can picture that.
And here's the most, well, heartbreaking consequence we found in the literature.
Yeah.
When tension builds in that kind of system, the most common way to restore a false sense of balance is for one partner to essentially surrender or make null their undifferentiated self.
Wow. What does that actually look like in real life? Surrendering the undifferentiated self.
It means crushing your own uniqueness to keep the relationship feeling stable, even if it's a false stability. It looks like giving up hobbies you love because your partner doesn't get them
Right. Or doesn't like you doing them.
or doesn't like you doing them. It looks like adopting all of your partner's political views or religious beliefs, even if they don't really sit right with you, just to avoid conflict.
Anything to keep the peace.
It's when you feel that expressing a separate desire or opinion is just.
Mm-hmm.
It's too risky. The cost is too high. And the sources repeatedly show that this mechanism, this self-erasure, often results in actual physical illness, chronic stress, or deep depression for the partner who's essentially sacrificing their identity.
That is heavy. But it provides such important context for why just talking more isn't the answer, is it?
Not on its own, no.
You have to build a system, a relationship dynamic where it's safe to maintain your separateness. Okay, so let's transition from that really essential background to the intentional, actionable ways couples can actively foster this mental connection, emphasizing that crucial balance and process we talked about.
Absolutely. The research gives us practical steps, focusing on really two key areas, experience and communication.
Okay, let's start with the experiential side. The sources consistently highlighted this balance between novelty and predictability. Predictability creates safety, obviously, that's good.
Foundational, yeah.
But novelty is what keeps the curiosity and that mental attraction alive.
Right. Novel experiences, they kind of force you both out of your comfort zone.
Yeah.
When you're faced with the unexpected, maybe navigating a new city when you're traveling or just trying a new complex activity together, you need creative thinking, you rely on each other differently.
Right, you have something new to talk about.
Exactly. It naturally provides fresh content for intellectual conversation that isn't just, rehashing the daily schedule or chores. And this fits with findings that couples who regularly share novel experiences report much higher relationship satisfaction and, importantly, better communication quality.
And it doesn't have to be some huge expensive trip.
Right? Not at all.
It could be learning a complex recipe together or maybe doing an escape room, anything that forces that joint problem solving.
Precisely. And building on that, we need to make space for unstructured quality time. We get so caught up in schedules, date night at 7:0, talk about bills at 8:0.
You're under rules all.
Right. But those spontaneous moments are often where the most meaningful intellectual conversations spark. These moments pop up when couples feel flexible, flexible in how they think and act, free from the tyranny of the schedule.
Makes sense. And the third experiential element was taking personal risks.
Yes.
Stagnancy in one partner breeds apathy in the other. If you're not actively growing yourself, you just have less substance to discuss, less to bring to the table.
That's right. When you take a risk in your own life, start that side project, learn that new skill, try a different career path, it boosts your self-esteem, it improves your quality of life.
And gives you something interesting to share.
Exactly. More and better substance to bring back to that intellectual table.
Okay, so that's the experience side. What about communication techniques? The things that specifically help intellectual sharing and keep it safe?
Right. Well, the first one is a classic but crucial, active listening.
We hear about it all the time.
We do, But we need to remember why it's considered the highest form of listening. It's because your goal is to truly understand and connect with your partner's mental map of the world,
That perspective, yeah.
not just waiting for a gap so you can jump in with your counter-argument or your own story.
It's about curiosity, not point scoring.
Exactly. In the context of intellectual intimacy, active listening proves you're, well, worthy of receiving complex, sensitive information. If I feel genuinely heard, I'm much more likely to share my deeper, maybe more difficult thoughts.
Makes total sense.
Hmm.
What's next?
The second technique is embracing I statements. This sounds simple, maybe even a bit cliche,
Yeah, therapy 101 sometimes.
right? But it's powerful.
Yeah.
We often default to, you make me feel, or you did this. But consciously using phrases like, I feel angry when X happens, or my perception of the situation is Y during conflict, it forces you to take extreme ownership of your subjective experience.
And the benefit of that ownership is?
Safety, again. It prevents your partner from immediately getting defensive.
Ah, okay. Lowers the shields.
Right, which allows their rational intellectual brain to stay online, stay engaged. When you shift the conversation from blame to perspective, you open the door for mutual intellectual problem solving rather than just, emotional warfare.
Got it. And the last communication piece.
Finally, having those big conversations, really discussing core values and deep-seated fears.
That's heavy stuff.
The heavy stuff. These are the vulnerability gold mines. Sharing what genuinely worries you about the future, or maybe revealing difficult life experiences that shaped your core values. It requires your partner to practice immense compassion and patience.
And it gives you incredible insight.
Profound insight into the mechanics of your partner's mind, what drives their behavior. That is intellectual intimacy at its finest.
Okay. So this brings us to a really crucial distinction that our sources help clarify. The difference between intellectual intimacy, which we've established is this process of sharing ideas,
The connection, the sharing.
and intellectual compatibility, which often gets boiled down to like raw intelligence or knowledge level. Are you smart enough for each other?
Right, and this is where it gets interesting and maybe a bit controversial.
Yeah, this is where I found some of the research genuinely surprising. We found one study cited, I think it was from Harvard, focusing on measured intelligence, IQ specifically. It suggested that partners with IQ scores within about 10 points of each other had the highest statistical odds of staying together long term.
It's a compelling finding, statistically. But the literature immediately throws up a massive caveat.
Which is
Intelligence manifests in so many different ways. You've got academic book smarts, sure, but also mechanical skills, artistic creativity, emotional intelligence, EQ.
right, all the different kinds of smart.
Exactly. So that study's finding might suggest that maybe a basic level of cognitive symmetry just eases the flow of communication, makes things a bit smoother, perhaps.
But the sources really stress that mutual respect for different skill sets is the actual key, not matching IQs.
Absolutely. You need to genuinely appreciate the kind of intelligence your partner brings to the relationship, especially if it doesn't mirror your own. If you're a great abstract thinker, but your partner is mechanically brilliant, you should respect and ideally benefit from that difference.
That makes sense. You complement each other.
Yes, but when that mutual respect is missing, incompatibility, whether it's perceived or real, can be profoundly destructive to the intimacy process we've been talking about.
Oh, so
We see two main pitfalls. On one side, the partner who is seen or sees themselves as smarter might feel constant frustration, maybe having to explain basic points repeatedly. Or they might develop a fear of sounding patronizing,
yeah, talking down to them.
which forces them to constantly simplify their thoughts, and that kills the intellectual connection right there. You're not sharing your real thoughts.
Okay. And the other side of that coin.
The partner who feels less smart might internalize that feeling as a deficit. They could feel perpetually disregarded, self-conscious, maybe unable to match wit or humor or sarcasm in a fast-paced conversation.
Leading them to shut down.
Exactly. It leads to a perception that the relationship is fundamentally unequal, and that partner will likely retreat from sharing complex thoughts entirely.
And that retreat, that silence, is basically the death knell for intellectual intimacy.
Pretty much. It's choosing separateness over closeness, but it's not that healthy, differentiated kind we talked about earlier.
Yep.
It's disconnection.
Right, it's pulling away.
Precisely. And this is why we have to zoom back out to the context of intimacy as a process. Self-disclosure, just telling the truth about your inner world, it's necessary, absolutely, but it is not sufficient for intimacy.
What do you mean? Honesty isn't enough.
Well, here's the dark side of honesty. If sharing intimate thoughts, even truthful thoughts, is done in a hostile way or at really inappropriate times.
Like using a vulnerability as a weapon.
Exactly. Or just dumping everything unfiltered. Even if every word is factually true, it serves only to push people apart, not bring them closer.
So if I use a difficult truth about myself to punish or control my partner, I might be technically honest, but I'm actually destroying intimacy.
You got it. The sources talk about the importance of some degree of idealization. That means focusing on positive images, maybe choosing not to disclose every single negative thought or temporary fleeting negative emotion.
So not brutal honesty 24/7.
No. That sounds exhausting and probably damaging. Some filtering, some focus on the positive, shared reality you're building. It's necessary for the relationship's psychological survival. Intimacy needs safety and validation, not constant, brutal, unfiltered intellectual confrontation.
Okay, that's a really important nuance, and we can actually confirm the impact of focusing on this intimate process by looking at clinical settings, right? Therapy outcomes.
Yes,
Oh.
definitely. One study we reviewed looked at solution-focused couples therapy, and it provided clear evidence of how effective this kind of skills training is.
What did it find?
It showed that this particular intervention significantly improved 6 major dimensions of marital closeness. Crucially for our discussion, this included both emotional intimacy and intellectual intimacy, alongside physical, psychological, sexual, and relational connection. The results were really robust.
Wow. And what was the mechanism? How did the therapy actually create that change, that deeper intellectual connection?
By teaching the necessary relationship process, that's the key. The couples weren't just told what to talk about more. They were taught how to talk effectively.
Ah, the skills.
The skills, they acquired tangible tools, how to detect problems early, how to use active listening consistently, how to consult each other rather than making demands, and how to engage in truly mutual decision-making. That disciplined, learned process led directly to increased mutual understanding and ultimately higher overall marital satisfaction. The intellectual connection improved because the communication scaffolding got stronger.
So, for you listening, the key takeaway here isn't about finding someone who reads the exact same philosophers or agrees with all your political takes.
Not at all.
It's about committing to the ongoing, sometimes challenging process of mutual discovery, openness, and that respectful negotiation that makes it safe to share your true, separate self within the relationship.
Couldn't say it better. And if we connect that right back to our initial paradox of individuation, remember that successfully navigating closeness and separateness requires continuous adjustment, continuous negotiation. It's never really done.
Always evolving.
Always evolving. So maybe we leave you with this provocative thought to mull over. What steps are you taking, maybe even on a daily basis, to ensure your relationship is one where both your individual self and your intimate mental connection to your partner are allowed to grow and enhance each other?
Instead of requiring one to surrender to the other.
Exactly. How are you nurturing both?